In just 60 seconds, one man stood up and said what the whole world was too afraid to admit. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't read from a script. He spoke truth, sharp, unfiltered, undeniable truth. And the room went silent. That man was Dr. S. Jaishankar. And in that moment, history shifted. This isn't just about politics. This is about power, identity, courage, and how one voice, one sentence can break decades of dominance. If you think you know who leads the world, think again. Stay with me. What you're about to hear will change how you see everything. Jaishankar didn't raise his voice. He didn't demand attention. But when he spoke, the world stopped and listened. In just 60 seconds, he reminded global powers that silence is not surrender. It's strategy. You see, we live in a time where noise is often mistaken for strength, where louder means better and faster means smarter. But not him. He waited. He listened. He observed. And when he spoke, it wasn't reaction. It was revelation. That kind of power comes from restraint, from patience, from knowing exactly when to speak and the why. Because real influence isn't about dominating a room. It's about disrupting it with precision. This moment was a lesson, not just in diplomacy, but in life. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is hold your ground silently while others rush to prove themselves. Jaishankar showed us that being silent isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And when you finally open your mouth, it should be, because your words are heavy enough to carry the weight of your truth. Think about your own life. How often do we talk just to be heard? How often do we respond in the moment just to defend ourselves? But true power doesn't always react. It responds with purpose. Jaishankar didn't speak to impress. He spoke to convey impact. His timing wasn't about emotion. It was about execution. That's the difference between making noise and making history. The world has long expected India to follow, to compromise, to soften. But in that one moment, through one composed voice, a new India stood up, confident, strategic, unshaken. And it spoke not just for itself, but for every nation, every voice that's ever been told to stay silent. So the next time you feel pressured to respond, remember this moment. Remember that your silence is not your weakness. It's your preparation. And when your moment comes, make it count. In a world stage filled with cameras, expectations, and careful diplomacy, Jaishankar didn't blink. He didn't dilute his words to please anyone. He looked straight into the eyes of global power and said what needed to be said, with boldness, clarity, and unapologetic truth. That moment wasn't about politics. It was about presency. He wasn't just speaking for India. He was speaking for every voice that had ever been dismissed or underestimated. And that takes courage, not the loud kind, but the kind that stands tall even when standing alone. When the world watches, most people choose safety. They play the game, smile politely, and stick to the script. But true leaders don't conform, they confront. Jaishankar didn't try to impress the audience. He challenged them. And in doing so, He broke the cycle of silence. He said what many others felt but didn't dare express. That's when you know a message is powerful, when it doesn't seek applause, yet it echoes everywhere. This moment is your reminder too. Don't shrink when the world is watching. Don't soften your truth to make others comfortable. The greatest shift begins when someone dares to speak up with fearless conviction. Let them watch. Let them doubt. But when your turn comes, speak like your words carry generations, because they do. Jaishankar didn't just deliver a statement. He delivered a reminder that behind every powerful voice is a deep understanding of identity, of history, of roots that run deeper than politics. In that brief moment, he didn't ask for recognition. He commanded it. Not through arrogance, but through grounded confidence in who he was and where he came from. That's what shook the room. That's what shifted the conversation. When you know your history, you don't seek permission to speak. You stand up and claim your space. Too often, people forget the power of identity. They trade authenticity for acceptance and silence parts of themselves to fit into systems that were never built for them. But Jaishankar reminded the world that true leadership is born when you embrace your whole truth, unfiltered, unaided. He didn't represent a position. He represented a people. And that made his words far more than political. They became personal, real. This world doesn't need more perfect speeches. It needs more, truthful ones. And truth doesn't always sound like diplomacy. It sounds like courage wrapped in clarity. The kind of clarity that only comes when you are rooted in your values and unapologetic about your voice. So remember this, the most powerful thing you can ever be is yourself. Stand tall in who you are and speak from the foundation of where you come from. Because when you know your history, the future no longer intimidates you. It waits for you. In just 60 seconds, Jaishankar gave the world a masterclass in precision. No long introduction, no rehearsed applause lines, just one focused message that cut through the noise like a blade. That's what real impact looks like. Not drawn out, not dramatic, just sharp, timely, and unforgettable. In a time where people talk endlessly and say nothing, his words reminded us, make every second count. We've grown used to speeches that are padded with fluff, with carefully chosen words meant to avoid offense. But that day, Jaishankar showed that clarity is more powerful than charm. He didn't speak to impress. He didn't try to win the room. He delivered a truth so clear, so grounded, that the room had no choice but to respect it. That's what happens when you value substance over show. And here's the truth for you. Your life doesn't need grand moments to be powerful. You don't need hours of opportunity to make your mark. What you need is clarity, purpose, and courage to use the seconds you have like they matter. Because they do. Jaishankar didn't wait for permission. He didn't wait for perfect timing. He saw the moment and he made it count. So should you. Your words, your actions, your presence, They can shift the atmosphere when they come from a place of focus and intention. Never underestimate the power of a moment when it's used with purpose. Jaishankar'S words weren't just a reflection of India's position. They were a declaration of a new world mindset. For too long, the global narrative has been shaped by a few voices, while others were told to stay in line, stay quiet, and follow instructions. But in that one moment, he made it clear the era of begging is over. The era of building has begun. And that message didn't just ripple through politics. It echoed in the hearts of every nation, every individual who's ever been made to feel less than. When he spoke, he wasn't asking for respect. He was showing what it looks like to own it. That's what happens when a nation finds its voice, its vision, and its direction. He didn't speak like someone hoping for approval from the West. He spoke like someone who knew that the future no longer belongs to those who had power. It belongs to those who are building something better. This is a powerful lesson for every one of us. Stop waiting to be chosen. Stop waiting for validation. The world is changing, and the new leaders will not be the ones who played it safe. They will be the ones who dared to rise, even when ignored or underestimated. They will be the builders, the bold ones, the ones who didn't ask to sit at the table. They built their own. Jaishankar'S speech reminded us that you don't have to be loud to be heard. You don't need to follow to lead, and you don't need to be accepted to become powerful. You just need to know who you are, what you're building, and why it matters. Because the new world doesn't wait for permission. It creates its own path forward. Jaishankar didn't just represent a nation. He represented a shift from dependence to determination, from silence to strategy, from waiting to leading. And what made his 60-second speech so unforgettable wasn't just what he said. It was what it stood for. It was the moment the world realized that India wasn't asking for a seat at the table anymore. It was already building its own, quietly, boldly, relentlessly. That speech wasn't random. It was a statement that the old ways of global control, manipulation, and selective leadership are being challenged, not through war, not through chaos, but through words, through presence, through vision. Because real power isn't loud, it's consistent. It builds slowly, and then one day it speaks. And when it speaks, it shakes the very foundation of what the world thought it knew. This is more than politics. It's a mirror for anyone who has ever been underestimated, for anyone told to wait their turn, for anyone who stayed quiet while preparing, building, growing. Jaishankar reminded us that when your moment comes, you don't need to prove anything. You just need to speak the truth, and the world will have no choice but to listen. So if you've been doubting your path, questioning your pace, or wondering if your silence means you're being left behind, let this be your answer. You are not behind. You are being prepared. Stay focused. Stay intentional. Let others talk. You build. Because when it's your turn to speak, you won't need to shout. Your impact will speak for itself. The world is shifting. The voices are changing. And now, it's your time to rise.